I am so happy to say that Bring Bo Back 2014, the rally for his awareness, is now Bo is Back 2014, and it's his official welcome home party to Idaho. And I have waited for a long time to say that. We've planned what the wording would be at any given time if the event was going to change. We only changed the year. And so to be able to say that is just an amazing feeling. The town of Haley and the community of the Wood River Valley, we're staying out of the politics. We're going to leave that to the rest of the world, and we're just going to welcome Bo home with open arms. We have our boy back, and we're going to let everyone else deal with the politics of it all.
Well, Bo Bergdahl is back in the United States. Eric Cantor last seen bouncing his way out of politics for the time being, while America seems destined for yet another possible boots-on-the-ground incursion in the Middle East to help a society that simply cannot seem to care for themselves. That's just the tip of the political iceberg, especially when you consider we have just heard from the president. Let's thaw things out just a tick. From the Republican and right side, read on the website politicalhype.com, seen here on Midpoint is our political strategist, Mariana Mancuso joins us. Good to see you again.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure to have you back. And from the Democratic and left side, the senior advisor from Progressive United, Josh Orton, joins us via Skype today. Josh, thanks so much for being with us. Good to talk to you again.
Good afternoon. Hi.
All right, let's go ahead. Mariana, we're going to go right to what the president said first of all. Ladies first, of course, as always, just because it's the polite thing to do. My daddy taught me that. Your first reaction, gut reaction.
It's another lack of commitment by the president on his part.
Okay, why?
Because he's not committing to what's going to happen in Iraq. He is just going to continue to draw a red line and walk away from it. We saw this in Syria. We saw this with the lack of his withdrawal troops in Iraq. He's just not committed to doing anything over there.
Josh, your reaction, first of all, just to what the president has said.
Well, I think the president was exactly right. I think the line that stuck out to me is, we can't do it for them. I think that's always been true. I think it was true when we originally invaded Iraq, and I think it's a reality that a lot of Republicans are still yet to grasp.
But is the reality not that sooner or later we are still taking people out, we're taking soldiers out? This is what many people will say. You're leaving them completely defenseless at this point, and it's the wrong thing to do.
Well, I think it's certainly true that there are no wonderful, excellent options when it comes to Iraq. But I think we have to look at, what do we expect the outcome to be here? What is this going to look like 5 years from now in the most rosy scenario we can think of? How many troops do Republicans want back on the ground, and how long do they want to keep them there? We have to go back to the original invasion, because the Iraq War proponents were wrong on two levels. They weren't just wrong about weapons of mass destruction. They were very wrong about that, but they were also wrong about how we were going to be greeted and how easy it would be to bring democracy at the end of a gun, and it turns out it's quite impossible.
I think you're wrong, because what this is an opportunity for us to go in and show that we are strong in foreign policy, and the fact is that we are not doing that right now. We are again showing lackluster leadership and allowing terrorist organizations to gain control and gain more momentum to ruin the region even further and unstabilize it.
Josh, I think that's a point to be made here, because certainly what you're doing is the door is continuing to be open here. Syria is pouring in fighters every single day, possibly by the thousands here. So aren't we simply just allowing the degradation of this society to continue?
Well, I guess I would go back to what the president said, is in that we can't do it for them. Remember, this is a regional conflict that's going on for thousands of years. So I guess I would ask, what's the audience for this military action that we're proposing here? What's it going to look like in 5 years? We've obviously seen an Iraqi government led by Maliki that has not been able to rise to the challenge of uniting their government.
But he's asking for help right now, and what the administration is failing to realize is that this is an opportunity to show that we are strong in foreign policy, and to basically show the American people and the rest of the world that we are standing up and we are going to do something. Right now, the president is showing that we have 48% people are disapproving of the country being safer right now than we were 5 years ago, and that's a problem.
If the goal is to show strength, let's send aircraft carriers to the region, let's put 100,000 boots on the ground, and then what? That has always been the problem.
We don't want to put boots on the ground. We want to flex ability and show that we can actually use this as a negotiation tool with the Middle East. We need to strengthen our... No, absolutely, I don't agree with you.
Well, but okay, let's put it this way. Let's talk about the strengthening here. Let's take it from right now where we go from here. I think we're all sitting here agreed that we do not want American soldiers on the ground in Iraq. We have lost far too many lives at this point and too many bloody conflicts here. So we're talking about airstrikes. And Josh, I'm going to start with you on this, because doesn't that eventually have to lead to something more? Because, quite frankly, again, we're coming down to a government that has not succeeded, that is unable to run its own country. There is continued unrest there. It seems to be the slippery slope again and again and again. How do we avoid that?
Absolutely right. And I think you're absolutely right that we can't throw good money and lives back at the problem. And I think that, for me, I think the interest that we have to worry about narrowly is what will keep the American people safe. What is the way to reduce the terrorist threat to America without getting into a whole nother boondoggle like we did originally? And what will that look like 5 years from now?
We should have left troops there. We shouldn't have fully withdrawn, and you can't disagree with that.
How long would you have kept troops there?
Well, right now we still have troops sitting in Bosnia and in Korea. What do you want to say? Should we pull those and bring those home as well?
Well, I guess what I'm asking is, what does an ideal situation for the Iraqi government look like to you when we have Sunni and Shiite Muslims fighting each other like they have for quite some time? Iraq, there's a question of, is Iraq governable? Do you believe that Iraq is governable by an Iraqi?
I believe that had we gone in and we had left people in there originally, then we would have been able to control the area, and we would have been able to show that we are strong as a world leader. And you can't deny that the lack of power shown by the United States on the world stage has just continually weakened under the Obama administration.
I guess I've never understood that argument. Who is the audience for this power besides cable news pundits? What I'm saying is there has to be some plan. It's one thing to say that, well, we should have left troops there. Obama shouldn't have ended the war as he promised. We should have had a force there to sort of keep the patchwork of the Iraqi government together. And then what? How long would we have had to do that? It looks indefinite. And so I agree with the president that there has to be some plan to minimize the
But he doesn't even have a plan. That's the problem. And nobody is talking about that. Nobody is talking that the president does not have a plan to go into Iraq right now and do anything. We saw in Syria, he drew a red line and he walked away. He's continued to draw lines in the sand over in the Middle East, and he hasn't done anything. He hasn't followed through on any foreign policy promises that he's made, and he just continues to fail at that, and you can't deny that.
Josh, I have to say, I just have to interject here. I think that's a very good point here, because it's not as if this all of a sudden snuck up on us here within the last 30 seconds or so. This has been coming. We have seen this. Anybody could see this coming. So let's deal with this president right now and this administration. Where is the plan, and why is there not a plan prepared and ready to go when they knew this was going to hit this nexus sooner or later?
Well, it sounds like from what the president just said to the American people that they're going to be looking at the different options. I think it's a little problematic that al-Maliki had refused American help for so long and is now all of a sudden asking for it. Now that the Iraqi Defensive Forces, ran from any conflict. So,
we should have just continued to wait until somebody said we need help. We shouldn't have made a plan after we exited. Is that what you're saying?
Well, what would that look like? What would that look like to you? If they're going to be troops on the ground for Iraq indefinitely, how long would we keep them there? And it goes back to my original question. Do you think that Iraq is governable comprehensively by an Iraqi?
Do you think, Josh?
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, I think that's a pretty much an opinion that's shared by a lot of people
Absolutely.
here.
I don't think anybody's sure. That's the biggest issue here. But the main problem is that when we pulled out and everybody left Iraq, we had no exit strategy. We just brought everyone home, we walked away, and we washed our hands of the situation. And that is something that we've seen the Obama administration do continually in the Middle Eastern region, and you cannot deny that.
I just don't agree with that. I think that what we saw originally with the Iraq War was a unilateral invasion that put together almost a phony coalition of nations. Americans were always doing the bulk of the work.
Look, you can't deny that there's been a false narrative since Obama took office. There's been a false narrative.
I think that President Obama actually started to do what the Bush administration would never do, which is to look at the problem in the Middle East as a regional strategy. We can't just go at this one country at a time and pretend that these countries are individual sources of threats. This is all a regional problem, and I think to say, well, he didn't do something on Syria, and well, he didn't do something on Iraq is missing the forest for the trees. This is a regional problem, and I think that you can't just throw troops and more money and more drones.
I don't think that we need to put troops over in the Middle East right now. I don't think that we need boots on the ground in Iraq, and I've continued to say that. That's not what I think needs to be taking place. What I think is that we needed a plan in place long before we ever pulled out of Iraq, and we don't have it, and now we're getting caught with, excuse me, with our pants down, and that's inappropriate.
Okay, so would the plan have been to keep troops there indefinitely?
That's what we're doing in Bosnia. We have troops in Korea. Do you want to pull those out right now, too?
Well, you're comparing
No,
the
I'm
situation
asking
in
you,
South
do you want to
Korea
pull troops out of Bosnia and Korea right now? Because we have them over there.
Same situation. I don't think we should pull troops out of Germany in our bases there either. I think
Then
that
you
Iraq
agree that we should have left troops in Iraq when we left?
I'm sorry?
Then you agree that we should have left troops when we left Iraq and we shouldn't have just...
No, because I don't think Iraq is like Germany, and I don't think Iraq is like Korea.
Okay, I think that's fair to say. Unfortunately, we're out of time here. Very quickly, I'm going to give you 5 seconds, a yes or no, Josh. Is this Iraqi government able to govern themselves?
No.
Okay, Mariana?
They need assistance and guidance.
So that's a no. Okay, that's a no on both sides here. Josh Orton, thank you very much for joining us. A spirited debate. I got a feeling we're going to be back here again, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Mariana Mancuso, thank you so much for joining us as well here in the studio. We, of course, will always ask our viewers exactly what you think about all this, because we're big on asking you through social media. You have heard the president here on Newsmax. Where are we going from here? This is Midpoint, where every day we question everything.